Hello and welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's April 16th, 2020, and this is episode 43. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my blog, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. We've got another social distancing episode for you of the podcast today. My sincere hope is that you're all safe and well, and there are lots of movies to watch from home, as you can probably attest to, and hopefully this podcast will give you some more ideas of some things to watch while we are all still apart and holed up in our homes. So, first up is an interesting concept, which we're just going to see what's going to happen as time rolls forward. But since we're not doing a new in theaters section right now, because the theaters are closed, this is going to be new on video on demand. And the one major film to discuss is Trolls World Tour, which is an animated film from DreamWorks Animation. It's a sequel to the 2016 film Trolls, and in an adventure that will take them well beyond what they've known before, Poppy, who's voiced by Anna Kendrick again, and Branch, who's voiced again by Justin Timberlake, discover that they are but one of 6 different troll tribes scattered over 6 different lands and devoted to 6 different kinds of music: funk, country, techno, classical, pop, and rock. Their world is about to get a lot bigger and a whole lot louder when a member of the hard rock royalty Queen Barb, who is voiced by Rachel Bloom, wants to destroy all other kinds of music to let rock reign supreme. With the fate of the world at stake, all of the other troll tribes unify in harmony against Barb, who's looking to upstage them all. So that's kind of the plot of Trolls World Tour. But what's interesting, I think, really is the distribution. So Trolls World Tour was supposed to open in theaters on April 10th. And as we know, that wasn't going to happen. So what DreamWorks and its parent company, Universal, decided to do was put it on video on demand. And so for $19.99, you could watch this movie at home. And supposedly it did very well last weekend. I haven't seen any actual numbers, but supposedly it is the number one title across all major video-on-demand platforms, which includes Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, DirecTV, Fandango Now, Google Play, Vudu, Xfinity, and YouTube. I will put a link in the podcast notes about where you can watch this flick or get it. But again, it's just on all major video on demand platforms. It's interesting what Universal decided to do. It was, of course, just on the verge of its theatrical release when COVID-19 precautions started shutting down movie theaters across the country and around the world. And marketing was in full swing. Promotional partnerships were in full swing. And, of course, merchandising, etc. And so Universal and DreamWorks decided to go ahead and release the film, but on video on demand. I also am not sure how well, even if we weren't dealing with COVID-19, I wonder how well this movie would have done in theaters. I mean, it might have been fine, but I think clearly it's gotten a lot more recognition and attention because of video on demand, and also, truly it's got a captive audience. So, anyway, and also, if you've got a family of 4, or whatever size your family is, you could plunk down $20 and everybody can watch this film. So it'd be a lot less than going to the theater if this is a movie that you want to see. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward if other studios decide to do this. Most studios have pushed out their release dates and of films I think now the big tent poles are in July. So again, it's going to be interesting to see. In July, we've got Disney's Mulan, which is their live action / CGI remake of their animated film, and Tenet, which is the next film from Christopher Nolan, which looks to be another one of those kind of mind-bending movies that he's known for. And both of those. So anyway, we'll see what happens, but I think that's kind of what's being targeted. So in the meantime, we'll see if any other studios decided to do one of these video on demand things based on the success of Trolls World Tour. Well, now that I have some more time at home in the evenings that I haven't had in the past, I've added another movie watching project to my schedule. I have been watching science fiction movies that have been in a really cool book that I got from Turner Classic Movies. It's called Must See Sci-Fi. So these are 50 science fiction movies, and I've been watching one of those a week, and that's been fun. I've been putting stuff on my blog and on social media if you're interested in following along, and I might do some more content about that on a future podcast. But what I've decided to add watching all 24 official James Bond films. Now, speaking of moving a film forward in the schedule, so also this month, we were scheduled to get the 25th James Bond film called No Time to Die. And it's starring Daniel Craig again. He's back again as James Bond. And it was, of course, a film I was looking forward to because I think James Bond films can be great, or at least, entertaining. That film, again, because of the pandemic and all the uncertainty, it got pushed out into November of 2020, and the release date will vary, I think, by country, but November 2020 is the release date, and so I just thought, wouldn't that be fun if maybe I've got some time now, and again, hopefully the social distancing rules will be lifted here, but still. I've got some time now to watch 24 of these official James Bond films. Now, I'm calling them the official films. It's the films that are produced by Eon Productions and by the Broccoli family. So the ones you see early on are Albert R. Broccoli, and right now you'll see Barbara Broccoli, who's his daughter, and also, right now too, Barbara Broccoli's half brother Michael G. Wilson is producing these as well. So anyway, you look for the Broccoli name, and this is a quote unquote official James Bond film. There've been a couple others, and again, I've seen these. I'm not going to include them in my watch list, but I'm just telling you just for information's sake. In 1967. There was a parody or a satire film released of Casino Royale, which is the first James Bond book that Ian Fleming wrote. And this satire film in 1967, starred David Niven as James Bond. And it's a crazy comedy. I mean, clearly it's a parody. It's a 1960s style, very, very reflective of the time period that it was made. But I'm not included. One other interesting note I realized, though, too, in 1954, there was a television adaptation of Casino Royale that was done in the UK, and I've never seen that one. I don't know if it's widely available, and I haven't really searched that hard. But anyway, I'm not watching that one either. As far as this watch list, the other film that's quote unquote not official is 1983's Never Say Never Again, which is basically just a remake of Thunderball. It stars Sean Connery, and the title was really tongue in cheek because Sean Connery said he never played James Bond again, but he came back. He came back for this one, and I think it's widely panned as also not a very good film, but also this was not produced by the Broccoli family. There was some weird things going on with the rights of that story, and so this film ended up getting made. So these 24 films that I'm going to watch, I'll have links about this info on the podcast notes on my blog. But I'm going to watch them in chronological order, and I'm excited. I've seen them all. It will be fun to revisit them, and then fun this November when finally the 25th Bond film, No Time to Die, gets released. So first up, the very first Bond film that was made was Dr. No in 1962. Again, produced by Albert R. Broccoli and his business partner, Harry Saltzman. They had formed Eon, so E-O-N Productions. And again, those are the names that you want to look for on these films. And this is just pure classic stuff. It's based on a 1958 novel written by Ian Fleming, and it just has it's really just the classic James Bond film. It really sets the tone for all films going forward. It's directed by Terrence Young, and of course stars Sean Connery. It also stars Ursula Andress. She's the one of the Bond girls, is kind of the major Bond girl, even though there are plenty of exotic women in Dr. No. Ursula Andress is kind of the main one, although she doesn't really join in the party until halfway into the film. She plays the character Honey Rider. And then Jack Lord, the actor Jack Lord, you might remember from the original Hawaii Five-0 television series. He plays the CIA operative Felix Leiter, who's a regular, in that's character is a regular in the James Bond pantheon. But I just had a blast watching Dr. No. I watched it. I rented it on Apple iTunes, and I think again there are a lot of options of ways to see this film. That one was just convenient, and I thought it was a decent price too, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just got all the classic stuff that you'd expect in a James Bond film. It's got the action, the cool cars, of course, the Bond girls. All the James Bond dialogue that goes on, and then of course the classic James Bond theme music. The theme is credited to Monty Norman. John Barry did the soundtrack for Dr. No, and I think there's been a whole lot of legal stuff from what I did with some of my research about this. But Monty Norman is the one who I guess is who the courts decided was the one who penned the very iconic James Bond theme. And anyway, just as also just I thought an interesting side note. Ian Fleming, who's the author of these James Bond characters and stories, he was an English author, journalist, and a naval intelligence officer. He wrote 12 novels and 2 short story collections that feature Agent 007, a.k.a. James Bond. Just FYI, Dr. No was book number 6 that Ian Fleming wrote. I'll put a link on the podcast notes to Ian the estate of Ian Fleming has an interesting website you can check out, and I think there's still a lot of respect, of course, paid to him, and I think he must have been a very interesting character himself. Ian Fleming also wrote, believe it or not, the story Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which got turned into a classic children's film as well with Dick Van Dyke. Just again, Ian Fleming trivia, right? But still, Dr. No, definitely recommend, and definitely fun to watch, particularly if you like this genre. I really love the Disney Plus streaming service. It's really been a huge gift to me and to my family, particularly during the social distancing time, during the COVID-19 pandemic. With my family kind of spread out both across Salt Lake City, where I live, but also just across the country, we've had some really fun virtual family movie nights. We all have Disney Plus, and basically we get together at the same time, and we pick a movie on Disney Plus, and we all press play again at the same time, and then watch the movie. Maybe we'll send a few text messages here and there, and then we'll have a FaceTime debrief after the film, and it has been a fun and comforting thing for my family. So, of course, there are big titles on Disney Plus that we're all familiar with. Of course, like Frozen 2. Pixar's Onward got moved to Disney Plus pretty quickly. Again, just because of the pandemic. And I think those are films that a lot of people have been watching. We watch them in my family. But I thought it might be fun to create a list of some more obscure titles that you might not have seen or are aware that are available on the Disney Plus service. So here's my list of 10 unusual movies on Disney Plus, and this list is in chronological order. So I'll give them a number, but again, those are just because there are 10 films, and not so much that I'm not ranking them at all. I just think they're all unusual films, and maybe films if you haven't seen them, you might want to consider adding them into the mix. So first off is the film Saludos Amigos, which is from 1943. This is from Walt Disney Animation Studios, and this is really an interesting film. It's one of what they call the package films, and also, I guess technically more a good neighbor film. So the U.S. government reached out to Walt Disney and asked him if his company could help out with some goodwill, missions to Latin America, or just a kind of a reaching out to our Latin American neighbors. Of course, the U.S. government was very concerned about the spread of communism, and was hoping that if the U.S. could be good neighbors and assist with Latin America leaders and with the people, that could help those countries. So, Saludos Amigos is one of the films that is based on this good neighbor policy. It's basically a series of shorts, but also it has some footage of this trip that Walt Disney took with some of his artists and some of his team to different countries in South America as they were participating in this good neighbor initiative. And so it's a short film. It's got again, these different shorts that are set in different places. One of them is Donald Duck visits Lake Titicaca in Peru. Another one is Goofy becomes a gaucho. Another one is about a little airplane that's got to travel. That I believe is set in Chile. Anyway, it's I think terrific Disney animation, interesting art, and an interesting concept. Now there was an article published. It's online, but it was in association with the Smithsonian's American History Museum. That's talking about basically Donald Duck as a diplomat to Latin America. I'll put a link to that on my blog if you want to learn more about this whole Good Neighbor stuff. It gives you some interesting information. So Saludos Amigos from 1943, definitely worth checking out. The second film, just FYI, the second film in this Good Neighbor series was The Three Caballeros, and you might be familiar with both the characters. Of course, Donald Duck is one of them, and then there's Panchito, the rooster from Mexico, and Jose Carioca, who's the bird from Brazil. But I don't like the Three Caballeros as much, and again, the animation is interesting and the history of it's interesting. But I think as far as just a purely entertaining film, I think Saludos Amigos is terrific. Number 2 on my list is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which was made in 1954. This is based on the classic adventure novel of the same title, published by Jules Verne, the French author. This book was published. The book was published in 1871. But this Disney production of the film, it was filmed in CinemaScope, so widescreen. And I gotta tell you, it holds up incredibly well. I watched this, believe it or not, for my Turner Classic Movie Must See Sci-Fi viewing project recently. I had seen it before, but it was really fun to rewatch it. And this, I'm just surprised of what a solid action film it is. Sometimes these just some of these older films, the pacing is different, and just the filmmaking style is a little different, and also the special effects maybe are a little cheesy and don't hold up that well, but this one holds up remarkably well and so well crafted. I think Disney spent a lot of money on it from what I've read too. It was a big financial risk, but it paid off. I've also got big stars in it. It stars James Mason as the crazy Captain Nemo. Kirk Douglas is in it. Peter Lorre's in it, and a giant squid. It's awesome. So they filmed a lot. They filmed some of it on location, but it's got this wonderful production design, and some of it was filmed actually on the Walt Disney Studio lot in Burbank, California. On one of the tours I've taken to the studio, they showed us the soundstage where they filmed some of these things from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The soundstage had a big water tank that they could pull the floor up and then fill with water. So they use that for some of it too. But if you haven't seen 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or if it's been a while since you've seen it, I recommend revisiting it. Next up is a title that's pretty obscure, but it's an interesting film. It's called The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin. It's from 1967. So this is based on a children's novel that was published in 1963. The novel was called By the Great Horn Spoon, written by Sid Fleischman. This is just a really, again, kind of a classic Disney comedy. It's set during the Gold Rush period, and it's about a little boy who, well, I guess, 10, 12-year-old boy, maybe he's a little older, but his family fortunes wane, and he decides he's going to go west and see if he can get some gold with the whole gold rush craze going on. And his family butler, who is played by Roddy McDowall in the film, joins him, and he's a bullwhip, or he gets the nickname of bullwhip from some events that happen in the film. The production design on this is interesting, as well as it's got a really fun use of its opening credits and interstitials that are put in to help with the narrative. They were designed by the Disney animator and artist Ward Kimball, who had a very distinct style, both artistically and with his sense of humor. And he, Ward Kimball, I think you definitely recognize some of his work, but he created some of the more twisted stuff in the Alice in Wonderland, for example. But anyway, I think that as in Disney's animated version of Alice in Wonderland from 1951. But anyway, definitely worth checking out. I mean, it's not necessarily the most dynamic movie, but I enjoyed it for what it was, and I particularly liked the art that Ward Kimball put in. It almost is like a Disneyfied version of some Monty Python type stuff. That's I think maybe one way to possibly describe some of that Ward Kimball work he did for the film. Next up is the film Tron from 1982. Now I love Tron. I mean, that was a movie of my childhood that I just adored. And seeing that on the big screen was, so memorable and just totally blew my mind. And it was actually it was the first film I decided to watch on Disney Plus when the service launched last year, just out of sentimental reasons. And I just think it's a really cool film. Again, Tron's narrative isn't maybe its strongest suit, but the visuals in this film are such a knockout. They were so groundbreaking. And I think it was just a very influential film. And again, if it's something that you haven't actually watched, I think I definitely suggest checking it out. Finally they made a sequel of it. It came out in 2010 called Tron Legacy, and that also is on Disney Plus. And it's a very cool film too, because again, with the advances made in computer technology, they took it full advantage of it, but it's hard to beat some of these effects in the original Tron. Also, what's interesting, I think, about Tron is that when they go into the computer world, the actors are all wearing these kind of funky white suits, and they were filmed on a black background, of course, on the Walt Disney Studios lot. And then all of those films, all of that was touched up by hand to give it its really distinctive style. And I think it was a very expensive and labor-intensive process that I think was a real burden on the studio, but you just can't beat this really unique look of this film. So I definitely would hope that you check out Tron. Okay, number 5 is the film Splash from 1984. Now, at this time, the Walt Disney Company decided to create a label called Touchstone Films, and it really was basically an adult label, or films for grown-ups that were not necessarily as family friendly as the Disney brand, but still made by Disney, so they could again, they just help them make money and make some different kinds of films. So the very first film that came out under this Touchstone Films label was Splash, and it's directed by Ron Howard and stars Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah. Daryl Hannah plays a mermaid, and who falls in love with Tom Hanks. She actually had rescued Tom Hanks' character as a little boy, and then they get reunited later in this film. It's a romantic comedy It's also kind of like, E.T., that the mermaid gets captured, and there's all sorts of drama kind of associated with that, because of course we don't want the mermaid to die, but all the evil scientist people seem to. But it's got John Candy in it and Eugene Levy, and some adult themes. It's definitely not. It's definitely probably not necessarily for the entire family. You'll have to make a call on that. I also had read, and I didn't notice this because I recently rewatched Splash on Disney Plus, but I guess there was a scene in the original film where Daryl Hannah's got a bare butt, and what they decided to do to put it on Disney Plus was add some computer generated. They added length to her already long blonde hair to cover up her butt. So I haven't gone back to try to find that, but that kind of cracked me up. But again, kudos to them for adding the film to Disney Plus and to want to still keep Disney Plus, family friendly. So this next film, though, it really, I think, kind of pushes the limits on Disney Plus. It's Big Business from 1998. So speaking of Touchstone Pictures, this movie is a Touchstone title, and it stars Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin. Now, Bette Midler, believe it or not, if you know this part about in Disney history, Bette Midler really played a huge role in boosting up the profits of the Walt Disney Studios in the 1980s, with a couple of Touchstone comedies. First up was Down and Out in Beverly Hills from 1986, and that's a really interesting film. That is definitely not on Disney Plus. But if you've never seen it, you might want to try to find that or rent it. It's interesting. But also in 1986 was released the comedy Ruthless People. And I don't know if you've ever seen Ruthless People. For me, it's a total guilty pleasure, and it is very R-rated. And so, again, not family friendly, but it is so funny. Danny DeVito and Bette Midler in this film, they're married, and Danny DeVito cannot stand, the Danny DeVito character cannot stand his wife. So he arranges for her kidnapping. And so Bette Midler gets kidnapped by these hapless people, played by Judge Reinhold and Helen Slater. And it's, I don't know, it's just hilarious. So anyway, I digress. But on Disney Plus is Big Business, made in 1988, again starring Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin. And what it's about is Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin play a set of twins, and that were switched at birth. So one set of twins is raised out in the country, and then this other set of twins is raised in New York City, and they run a family business. And so Bette Midler kind of is the type A character, driven, mean, and well, I guess I should say that. I mean, they kind of vary depending on if you're in the city with the city twins or the country twins. But regardless, it's a pretty silly comedy. Some adult situations in it that again might not necessarily work for all family members depending on ages and tastes. But I thought it was funny to watch and again, something that you might not necessarily consider watching on Disney Plus. Okay, next up, number 7 is The Rocketeer from 1991. This is a action film. It's Disney branded, and I think pretty Disney friendly, although there's some violence in it. But it's directed by Joe Johnston, and it's a flawed but really fun film. It's got a very elaborate plot. It's set during World War II, and the Nazis are after this rocket pack technology. Being able to help people fly. Be able to put on this pack that allows people to fly, and the Nazis think they'll be able to use it to invade other countries, and particularly the United States. But it gets in the hand of this aviation team based in California. And so they've got all this stuff going on. There's this Hollywood theme, and then this aviation thing, and then the Nazi thing, and then there's these gangsters involved. There's a lot going on, and I think the plot is it gets a little carried away. I think there's a little too much going on. I mean, just as far as just all these different characters involved. But still, the visuals are great. The action is great. A very young Jennifer Connelly is in it. She's lovely. She plays the romantic lead. Timothy Dalton's in it. He plays the bad guy. Anyway, Alan Arkin also has a role in it. So The Rocketeer is definitely worth checking out. If it's a movie that you haven't seen, or if it's been a while, I think you should add it to your list. Number 8 is the film Sister Act. Now this is also a Touchstone film. So, again, a Disney film, but made for grown-ups. I just think this movie is so funny. I'm not a huge Whoopi Goldberg fan, but she just aces it in this film. It's about a woman who gets put in the witness protection program, and she's a lounge singer in Reno, Nevada, and they put her in a convent as a nun, and so she kind of mixes things up with the church choir repertory, and then there's of course some action involved in it when the gangsters find out where she is. But it's a terrific film. Now I understand that a lot of different people kind of helped with the script. An uncredited script doctor of this film is Carrie Fisher, and it shows. I think her humor really shows in this movie. I like Sister Act a lot, so that's another one. Number 9 is a really unique film called The Straight Story, and it's a family drama. Again, made in 1999, and it's directed by David Lynch, of all people. David Lynch is kind of this avant-garde, mostly kind of weird and disturbing director. I mean, for lack of a better term, I know that he's got a real following, and I think his films are very interesting. But this one, you wouldn't even put you wouldn't even think that David Lynch had directed this film. It's so unique, but it's about an older man who's like well into his 70s, and his estranged brother who lives across the country is dying, and he decides he wants to go reconcile with him, and the only way that he can get there is via his tractor. He drives his tractor across the country to try to go meet up with his estranged brother. But it's a poignant film, a beautiful film, a quiet and gentle film, and not necessarily one you would ever again put with director David Lynch. And also might just not be one that really stands out as far as when you're just trying to find something to watch. So definitely check out the Straight Story. My final list of these 10 is another one, a bookending from Walt Disney Animation Studios. It's Atlantis: The Lost Empire from 2001. Now you're probably thinking, dude, what in the world? This movie is not a good one. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. I recently rewatched it, and for me, it's just a total guilty pleasure. Now this film is so flawed, so many problems. I've got so many problems with the story in this film, but visually, I think it's such a knockout. The animators worked with comic book artist Mike Mignola, and Mike Mignola, he's mostly known for creating the character Hellboy, but I don't know if you've ever seen any of his original art. But he's got his artistic style is, of course, his own, very very unique. But if you look at Atlantis, it doesn't necessarily look like your traditional kind of Disney film. The animation is gorgeous, as a hallmark of Walt Disney Animation Studios, but the character designs are really different, very angular, very distinctive. The backgrounds are all unique and quite epic in scale, and I really love Atlantis for the art, and I frankly kind of just love it for the potential. I mean, it's kind of hard to watch a film and just realize what it maybe could have been, but still, this film has so many satisfying elements that I think it might be worth checking, at least checking out, and seeing what you think. Now, there was a sequel made of this film, Atlantis 2: Milo's Return, and it was during those horrible, I refer to them as the cheapquel years, because all these sequels were made on the cheap, and they're just, the animation's dreadful, and maybe they brought in some of the original vocal talent, but typically the stories aren't great, and I find them really hard to watch. So I just steer clear of the majority of those cheapquels. You know, this is the same group that brought out Cinderella 2 and Cinderella 3. Again, like we needed those at all. But still, Atlantis from Atlantis: The Lost Empire from 2001, total guilty pleasure, and maybe it might provide some enjoyment for you or some distraction. Again, just think of it like you're watching a painting rather than really being invested in a story that makes sense or that provides a lot of enjoyment. Okay, just a few more movies to talk about, as far or movie options, I should say, that you can consider while you're social distancing. Lionsgate Movie Studio is doing an interesting thing where they're going to be showing a free movie online for the next 4 Fridays. So I believe that they're going to be doing this either on their website or on YouTube. I will put a link to it in the podcast notes, but it's going to be hosted by actress Jamie Lee Curtis, and it's going to be benefiting the Will Rogers Motion Picture Pioneers Foundation, which is dedicated to helping people who work in the motion picture industry. And this foundation is currently providing financial assistance to theater employees furloughed by the COVID-19 crisis. But the 4 movies that they're going to be showing for free online over the next 4 Fridays, starting tomorrow, April 17th, it's The Hunger Games. Then on April 24th is Dirty Dancing, you know, the classic with Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey. Nobody Puts Baby in the Corner. May 1st is going to be La La Land. And then on May 8th, John Wick. So a variety of films and genres. And again, maybe not all of them are going to work for the family. I think John Wick is one of those. But also The Hunger Games, really. But anyway, I'll have a link to this on the podcast notes on my blog. And then also a quick reminder that this weekend, actually starting today, April 16th through April 19th, it's the Turner Classic Movies Classic Film Festival Special Home Edition. So this weekend I was scheduled to be in California. I was going to, go to the next edition of the Turner Classic Movie Classic Film Festival, which they do in Hollywood every year. And of course that has been canceled, but those great folks at Turner Classic Movies really turned lemons into lemonade and decided that they were just going to make a home festival available to anyone who gets the Turner Classic Movies cable network, and they're just having movies, and all the movies that they are showing have some kind of significance to past film festivals. This would have been the 11th. I guess it is. It's still a film festival. It's the 11th iteration of their classic film festival. And again, this is this one that they're doing at home. I'll have links to the schedule in the podcast notes, but they're showing a lot of stuff. The opening film is going to be A Star Is Born. It's the 1954 edition with Judy Garland and James Mason. The reason they're showing this is because actually that was the film. They had a newly restored version of A Star Is Born that opened up the very first Turner Classic Movies Classic Film Festival in 2010, and then. There's just showing any number of things, some interesting interviews. I think they're going to be very active on social media too, and so I'll put links to their social media channels also in the podcast notes. It was fun. So one of the things you get when you actually go to the film festival is they give you you get your badge. It's your credential that you wear around your neck, and that it's what gets you into the screenings, and then gets you into the right queue, etc. But they sent out badges yesterday on their social media channels, and I'll have a link to it so you can get your own if you want to play along. But instead of the different kind of badges like the classic badge or the essentials or the different ones that they were selling, it's where you're going to be watching the film festival from home, bedroom, living room, office, den, anyway, I thought that was a great idea, and I think that we're in for a special weekend for those of us who love Turner Classic Movies, and we're feeling sad that we can't go, but I'm glad that we'll be able to do something, and again, be able to enjoy movies together while we're not able to be physically together. Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Again, links and more information about all the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And I hope that watching some great movies will bring you peace and comfort this week. Be safe out there, and thanks again.